Okay, so basically, when we get back, learning about food habits, beliefs, and behavior of specific groups are very valuable. You can see that even through the barriers that you've just seen, that we need to make sure we understand and that our communities also understand us. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to achieve the behavior changes that we want to have healthier communities. But there are some universal skills that we can learn and that we can utilize to for assessments and treatment plans on how to communicate or assessments or computer treatment plans. I'm sorry for that. So basically, to do a culturally appropriate intervention, the Learn Intervention Guidelines provide us with a tool for negotiating the assessment and treatment plan so that it is culturally sensitive to the people. So what we do is there are 5 different steps that we have to follow, and the first one is really listen. We have to listen to what other people are saying, especially when we are working in different communities with different cultures. We need to listen to the people. We must come across as if we are curious. We should not be judgmental, but we want to really listen and hear what the problem is when we assessing maybe a community, so that we don't go there and just make observations, but listen what the community is also always saying, so that we can understand what the problems are that they are facing. The next is to explain. Once you have listened to the community, explain it back to them what you understand they have told you to be what the problem is. And this can also be used when you are working with individual patients. You need to understand that you understood what they have said. The next is then to acknowledge that there are similarities and that there are differences in your perspectives regarding the cause and also maybe the treatment of what the issue is that they have identified and explained to you. Then you can start and recommend what you think the treatment should be, or what the program should involve, and make sure that again that it is relevant to the problem that they have. It should be concise, especially in different communities. Do not talk in using highly English and high almost British English that is difficult to understand sometimes. Make it concise, to the point, and very practical when you try and tell them what they need to do, and then negotiate about and reach an agreement of what should be implemented in a community, or what treatment the person should be getting. So you can always give, like we did in the Kwakwa, we gave them different options, and you can let them decide what they think can work for them. That is basically really the strategies that we are using. First, listening to the people when we want to assess what the problems are. Explain back to them to make sure that we understood what they were saying. Acknowledge that we understand what they think the problem is, and how do we think what the problem is. Where is it similar? Where do we differ? And then start recommending what they should be eating or what they should be doing to address the problem in a very short and sweet, keep it simple and short way, and then to negotiate what are the different treatment options and what do they think would be working for them and what they will be able to do. So here is the learn principles in table 1514. Listen with sympathy, understanding their perception, explain your perceptions, acknowledge, discuss the differences, recommend the treatment, and on the treatment. So also practical considerations when we are talking with communities. Very, very important to build trust in a community. It took me sometimes 2 years before I could start and implement my programs in communities. The first sort of year or two, it was just meeting them, talking to the people, building trust so that they could start trusting me. So that is really important. The community organization is also important. You should know what the role of their leaders are. Can you go into a community without speaking to the leaders first, or would it be easier to go into to talk to the leaders? Very much again what we've said, that authority, the lines of authority. We cannot just go and speak to the children before we have not spoken to the parents. We cannot work with children before we have not got the permission from the parents. Same thing, we cannot go and speak to teachers before we have not got the permission from the principals of the schools. Same thing in communities. We need to make sure that we have we talk to the right people initially. We also should encourage our community members to participate in all the levels of the intervention, not just certain parts of the intervention. It is really, really good if they can do that. Learn about your community before you design the program. I think what we have said is the needs assessment absolutely essential for any program, not only in culturally diverse groups, but in any community that you will be going to work. Go back to them, give them specific options, let them be part of the decision-making process as to what they would want to do. If you remember about my Kwakwa program, we were talking about going back to them with the 3 different strategies: the education, the skills training, and also the gardening program. We let them decide what they wanted to start with. We let them decide what they wanted to do with the gardening. We gave them ideas, but we also made them to be part of the decision making. For immigrant populations, it would be a good idea if you can resource lists of low-cost comparable foods. I think I told you the example where for the first 3 years that I was here in America, I brought back cans and cans of garbanzo beans every year when I went to my country, because I never knew that chickpeas were called garbanzo beans here. I was looking for chickpeas, couldn't find it, brought them back here just for one day, that I was actually, when I had time in the supermarket, and I saw, but this looks like chickpeas, and I saw that this was garbanzo beans, and realized then that I didn't have to bring all of it with me. Cooking demonstrations, tell people, show them how they can use alternative ingredients to replace some of the ingredients that they are used to cooking with. And then also a good idea can be to coordinate the food education lessons with English as a second language program. A lot of immigrants especially will go to English as second language programs to learn English. It could be good also to combine that and also have the English learning programs could be based on nutrition or maybe food education, so that they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So we talked earlier about pictures that we are going to use. So if we look at the pictures here, normally when we're in the class, I would ask you, if you were using, what picture would you use for the different cultural groups? So, but it's important that when we are talking to a Hispanic population group, that the far right, where we have the guacamole recipe or picture, that is a picture that will talk to them much more than maybe on the far left, where we have the avocado on sliced bread, because that is probably not something that Hispanic people will be familiar with. So even when we are looking at the use of pictures, make sure that our pictures are also going to be applicable and culturally acceptable to our communities. Another example is when we want to talk about maybe peppers in the diet, or the use of peppers. I do not think the picture on the far left, again, if we take a Hispanic population versus maybe a Caucasian population group, that the picture on the far left would be more applicable maybe to the Caucasian group, whereas on the far right in the bottom right-hand corner, that could be more applicable maybe to a Hispanic group of people, or even the top one where it's like the pepper salad that they can have with bread, perhaps. So yes, we have to, even if we want to talk about a specific food item, we should look also at how the people are preparing it and how they are eating it, and try and use those sort of the different population groups. Have the different religion groups, different wealth groups, illiteracy, even different disparities in malnutrition, even still in housing. Maybe not to the extent that it is in the rest of the world, but we need to really go out there and teach and train our people about health, and make sure that we are culturally competent to deal with all the different cultures groups. So this is another just a summary of cultural diversity, and I am not going to break this here now. I want you to please go back to this slide and have a look at this, so that you can also see specifically what is being done in healthcare to help people from different cultural groups and them. This is also just an article that you can go and have a look at, where there's also again why dietitians should be aware of the different cultural foods that people are eating. So, and that, again, that not one size fits all is the approach